Women's Gold Cup press conference for Team Canada. We're joined by Canada head coach Priestman and player Quinn. A reminder that simultaneous translation is available in English and in Spanish. Also, a gentle reminder to media to please state your name and your media outlet prior to asking your question. We'll start with questions from media who are here in person, and then we'll then move to media joining us virtually. Please raise your hand if you have a question.
Muy buenas tardes. I will ask in Spanish if you let me.
Thanks.
Yeah. Juancho Villaverde para ESPN, para la entrenadora y luego para ambas. ¿Qué tan incómodo o interesante es enfrentar al mismo rival en dos partidos consecutivos, solo que ahora en una eliminatoria directa? Y la pregunta para ambas sería, ¿qué tan importante está siendo esta Copa Oro con miras a la competencia interna dentro del plantel, sabiendo que para los Juegos Olímpicos la lista se reduce a 18?
Yeah, I think, very unique situation in terms of playing the same team twice. I think it poses a totally different challenge. We recently, with Jamaica to qualify for the Olympics, had the home and away leg, so that's a little bit of familiarity there around turning around a game, a critical game that means something. But yeah, it is unique, and I think it's going to make it for more of an interesting match because, you know, in many ways, yeah, we learned something from each other, and it's who can dissect that game and apply going into the next game. So it's a very unique situation, and for me personally as a coach, I think it's really important that we stay with the game that we're at, not getting too far ahead, but also knowing that I think Costa Rica for sure are going to bring a better version of themselves. I think there was a couple of players, Chinchilla, who was off the bench, Scott, so there's, you know, some changes there I think that I'd expect to see. So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to go again.
Yeah, I think like from a player perspective, understanding that both teams are going to be learning from this game. So for us, it's really important to, you know, look at our strategies for how we're learning from our last game and improving upon our next one. So really tuning into focusing on our film and doing those little bits that are important, as well as focusing on the keys that we had last game that made us excel.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot that one. Yeah, I think, listen, every outfield player, I believe now has contributed to the team, and I think we've got unbelievable depth in this squad. In many ways, it's a bit of our X factor at the moment to try and get this to 18. And you talk about the players that aren't here due to injury, feels like a very impossible task. So I think I was really clear coming in. I needed to see players, at the same time try and balance some partnerships and get some flow in that sense. But yeah, I mean, getting it to 18 almost feels unfair based on the players in front of me. Got a lot of talent. So yeah, it's for every player to step up, which to be fair, every player that's gone in or started a game has done so far.
Damien Calhoun, LA Daily News. Question for Bev or Quinn. How would you assess your play in group stage? And to come in here as the #1 seed, what would it take for you guys to finish this out with the trophy at the end of the tournament?
Yeah, I think it's been an exciting group stage for us. I think, you know, we look at tournaments in the past, we've had some difficulty putting the ball in the back of the net, and so I think it's exciting to see us really capitalizing on our chances and creating a lot of good quality chances that we can score off of. I think that's going to give us good momentum going into these other matches, into the match tomorrow, and so I think that's an exciting thing to see for us that we haven't always seen in the past.
Buenas tardes para ambas. Mauricio Duque de la hora del FPC. Para la coach quisiera preguntarle qué ha podido ver en estos últimos días en busca de mejorar, más allá de que tengan el mismo rival y del buen resultado que tuvieron enfrentando a Costa Rica, cómo se puede justamente encarar este nuevo reto ante el mismo rival, pero buscando mejorar y quizá tener un resultado similar al del partido anterior. Gracias.
I think our mindset throughout the group has been that we will improve on every game, and I think we've done that. We've focused on making us better, and I think whilst respecting the opponent, and you know, Costa Rica were the opponent in the last game, same in this game, but ultimately there's things that we feel we could have done better in that game that we are really going towards, whilst also I think we've seen glimpses of probably Costa Rica at their best, and I think we have to be prepared and ready for that. But I think we also have to go in very adaptable, and I think this team has some great experience who've been to major tournaments, played in different ways. You know, we've played in many formations, and I think we now going into this game have that up our sleeve to be able to adapt based on what we see in front of us.
Hi, Bev and Quinn. Stephanie Charity for ESPN. Coach, I would like to ask you the fact that Costa Rica had to play the last game with the goal difference that they had to look at, and also the yellow cards because of the fact that was involving Costa Rica's performance. Do you think that that would make a difference for this game, and how do you picture that, knowing also that you're the big favorite in one of these games? It's like the most difference between you and your opponent. The other ones are a little bit more tight. What do you think about that fact? And for Quinn, I would like to ask you that you didn't play against Costa Rica in the lineup, the startup lineup. What do you think about this competitivity inside of your team, the fact that you haven't repeated any startup lineup yet? And how do you feel inside of the team itself that it doesn't really make a difference when you see Canada playing, but for you as a player, what does it mean that you are not always in the startup lineup? It's not like repeating from one game to another. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's an exciting thing for a team, as Bev touched upon earlier, just being able to have the depth in our squad to be able to put anyone out on the pitch and to get the same performance and the same level. And so I think that's a really exciting thing for us, and I think it's going to benefit us moving further along into this tournament. I think we're going to have, a fresher squad because we've been able to rotate players in and out and been able to keep the level at the same time. And it's always competitive as a team, and you want to get the starting spot, but I think we have such a supportive and great group that it's when the 11 is put on the pitch, it's everyone doing their part to see what they can do to put out the best performance we can.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of playing Costa Rica and their approach. I think when our third goal went in, you got a real sense of the urgency then to play, and I think that's the Costa Rica I expect to see. I think, for sure, they're going to go up a notch, and they're probably going to come into the game with that same mentality, and I think that's where we have to be our own motivators. Put any team in front of us in this tournament, it's about us doing us and getting better and better. But we absolutely are only focused on the game and the team in front of us right now, knowing that they absolutely, for me, had some starters on the bench that came in, and we'll be ready for that, just like we were in the game before.
Do we have any other questions in the room? Go ahead.
Buenas tardes. Ana Viteri para Once Diario de México. Preguntarles cómo han visto el nivel de la competencia y si le ven futuro para que sea uno de los torneos más importantes a nivel femenil. Y Quinn, preguntarte si tú has visto, con toda la experiencia que tienes de mundiales y olimpiadas, qué tanto crecimiento has visto a nivel mundial en las competencias como estas.
Yeah, I think the gap is definitely closing. I think I can look across the groups. I only said Mexico, US. I think that demonstrates the gaps, and the margins are getting closer and closer. I think professional leagues have a huge part to play in that. You look at the Mexican League and how that clearly has helped Mexico, if I just use them as an example. So the margins are closing. I think we felt that obviously in the summer in the World Cup. Nations are getting more compact, more organised, fitter. So yeah, I think in the future, particularly with I really like the format in terms of inviting other confederations. It's going to help us prepare, for example, for an Olympic Games. So yeah, I think it can be a really exciting tournament moving forward.
Yeah, I think just echoing what Bev said, I think it's getting more competitive each year. The quality is just continuing to grow in a lot of different countries around the world, including, CONCACAF teams. And so I think it's a really exciting thing, and having this tournament is just another opportunity for teams to be able to play and improve their squads and to line up against each other. And so I think it's getting that consistent exposure, getting the opportunity, and getting the investment is going to be hugely important to keep pushing teams towards improving. And we've seen that with the competition that we faced for sure.
Okay, we'll take some questions from media joining us virtually, and we'll continue with Neil Davidson.
Thank you. Neil Davidson from the Canadian Press. First of all, Bev, congratulations on your 50th game in charge. Seemed like only yesterday you joined us. You touched on this a little earlier, but getting down to 18 players for the Olympic roster, is this tournament making it easier or more difficult?
Yeah, definitely more difficult. I think the injuries that we faced and, you know, whether it be forced rotation or not, but, you know, I can only think of there's at least 4 who aren't here that will be in contention coming into this tournament. And then the performances of, you could say, some young players I think have really stepped up, and there's been a level of consistency no matter who you put on the pitch. Every player's probably brought a little bit of their super strength. So, yeah, definitely I walk away from this tournament with, yeah, a lot to consider. And obviously we still have the She Believes and hopefully some fixtures after that. But 1,000,000%, it's making it more difficult. I think as the levels go up, there's a lot on the line in a knockout game, and then hopefully beyond that, you get to learn more and more. And I think that's the critical part as well. But what I must say is the players have handled themselves with real class off the pitch. You know, every player wants to start. Every player has put out good performances, and you can argue, you know, who should and who shouldn't start. But yeah, the players in terms of the team culture have really handled that really well. And I think it probably is a blueprint for this team moving forward in terms of, you know, lineups rolling over. It might be a thing of the past, and I think that's a good place to be in as a coach, but it gives you a lot of headache overnight in terms of picking a starting lineup.
Okay, and our last question will come from John. Go ahead, John.
Thanks. John Molinaro from Sportsnet. Hi, Bev. You know, you've mentioned throughout this tournament about the importance of maintaining standards. And I think it was after the last game you said how you challenged the players about how they do one thing one time is how they do everything every time. Considering it is Costa Rica, it's a team that you've never lost to in 16 games. You're much higher ranked against them. So is it difficult to sort of maintain those standards? How do you guard against sort of complacency against a team which I think by all rights, and no disrespect to Costa Rica, most people expect you to beat? So how do you guard against complacency?
I think the complacency the lack of complacency comes from maybe the competition in the squad and the standards that every player's put out on the pitch. I think these are the games that you live for, right, where everything's on the line. A knockout game is you go home if you lose, and so I think that means a lot. And I just get the sense from the group that it is actually about us, and that, you know, we have a level, we know where we're going. July 25th, our eyes are set on that, but ultimately to get there, every single thing we do matters. And I just get this feeling from the group that complacency isn't there. And I think, you know, I've been in environments, or it's been there in the past, where maybe it is very comfortable. It's absolutely not a comfortable environment in a good way. I think the group are pushing every day to be better. But absolutely we have to respect this game. Will mean everything to Costa Rica to scalp Canada and get, like you say, that result. That's a mindset that we first and foremost have to match. Then you talk about tactics and behaviours, but the mindset for this group, for me, feels really good at the minute. But we absolutely have to match that first and respect the team in front of us, and know that I think there's another level in Costa Rica that we only got a snippet of, and I'd expect that level to be there from the get-go in this upcoming game. So we'll be focused, and it very much feels like that.
That concludes this press conference for today. Thank you, Coach, and thank you, Quinn.
Thank you. Thanks.